Hello and welcome to A Game of Two Halves, a show created and produced by sports journalism students at the University of South Wales. My name is Johan Saunders, and in today's episode we'll bring you the latest sporting headlines across Wales, as well as a story from a man who talks about how he's used squash to help with his recovery, speak to a local paddle group aiming to boost participation in the sport, and we're joined in the studio by a women's freelance football writer. But first, here is a roundup of this week's sporting headlines. Wales made history by reaching their first major women's tournament after defeating the Republic of Ireland to qualify for the 2025 European Championships. After the first leg finished 1-1 at a record crowd in the Cardiff City Stadium last Friday, second half goals from Hannah Kane and substitute Carrie Jones put Cymru 2-0 up in Dublin. Anna Patten pulled one back later on for the hosts, but Wales hung on to secure their place in Switzerland next year. Manager Rhian Wilkinson spoke after the game and said the achievement will change everything for Welsh football. Earlier in the week, Newport County recovered from 2 goals down to draw 2-2 with AFC Wimbledon. The Exiles found themselves 2 goals down after 20 minutes. However, County responded well by halving the deficit shortly after through Michael Spellman. Shane McLaughlin's 97th minute penalty rescued a point as Newport recorded the 8th league draw of the season. And the snooker world mourns the death of Terry Griffiths, who unfortunately passed away earlier this week at the age of 77. The former world number 3 won the 1979 World Championship as a qualifier before going to mentor some of the greats of the game, including Stephen Hendry, Mark Allen and fellow Welshman Mark Williams. On to our first story of the episode, where we spoke with a man who, after developing a rare debilitating condition which left him paralysed, has used squash and other sports to help deal with the new reality. Tom Murphy reports.
My name is Jamie McCange and I am a disabled squash player. Through my time with squash, I also used it as part of my rehab and physiotherapy, and as a result of playing squash and of working with people like Richard Plenty, I actually then ended up going onto crutches and playing squash on crutches. I then later also went up and started playing squash on calipers against able-bodied players. I've played in the Welsh Masters, the English Masters, as well as the Slovenian European Masters. Within that time, my balance got better, my strength got better, my physical capabilities got better and started to improve, and as a result I've even then progressed to being able to walk again, albeit now on crutches, and then as it is now onto CAFOs, knee, ankle and foot orthotics. Within that experience I've also then gone on to reach Everest Base Camp as well as summit Mount Kilimanjaro. Did squash play a massive part in that? Absolutely, because it got me fit and it changed my mindset, as well as other activities such as wheelchair rugby, wheelchair basketball, and actually one of the players that I play wheelchair basketball with, Steve, I also play squash with. So it also then solidified that friendship as well. So squash has played a massive incremental part within my journey from disability to being in a space of improvement, as I will say. And I never use the word recovery because unfortunately my condition is degenerative. It will break down. I could end up back in a wheelchair at any time, and as a result I know that I've always got squash there to help. As well as help me get physically fit, it's also allowed me to get mentally better throughout that process. I was able to integrate with other people, to get to know other people, and to be able to have open conversations, have a laugh, have a joke. It's a lot more of a social aspect as well as a physical aspect. So what would I say to those people who are thinking about squash as a sport? Well, the same thing as I would say to anybody who's thinking about doing anything is to go out and have a go. Find someone that can support you, someone that can help you. Get in touch with Rabina Squash Club, for example, and come along to a session.
Next up, we speak to a local paddle group who are aiming to further push the rise of the sport across South Wales. Tom Murphy has the report.
One of the fastest growing sports in the world, paddle tennis has exploded in popularity within the UK in recent years, which is now starting to spread across South Wales. Paddle communities are being established in the Welsh capital, including the Cardiff City House of Sport Centre, which is based in Leckwith. Adjacent to the Cardiff City Stadium itself, now they're aiming to get the word out further to those who haven't caught up with the trend just yet.
Paddle is sort of like a combination of tennis and squash. You've got what looks like a tennis court, slightly smaller, with back walls and side walls, so very similar to squash. It's a little bit, there's a lower barrier to entry, so serving's underarms a little bit easier. Because of the walls, the ball stays in play a bit more often. I think it was invented in Mexico. It's really big in Spanish-speaking countries, but something new to the UK. So tonight we run a session where 12 people turn up. We do a set per the 3 courts, and then we rotate, and everyone gets to play with everyone. And if you win, you go up a court. If you lose, you go down a court. So it sort of adds that level of competitive.
Is it like a set standard you have to be to come down here, or?
Not essentially. There's definitely groups of different standards, but there's nothing to say that you can't be a total beginner and come along. There are specific beginner sessions over Cardiff, but this particular session is quite advanced. But yeah, there's equally mix-ins up on the weekend that are aimed at an intermediate standard, and this beginner one started up as well. The biggest sort of challenge, I guess, is just spreading awareness of what a sport is. So most people just haven't got a clue, or you're talking about paddle boarding or something else. Yeah. So yeah, the key is just being sort of getting the message out there with serious sort of video footage and getting people down here to play, and then trying to get them to spread by word of mouth as well.
Annual participation in the UK has skyrocketed in the last 5 years, going from 6,000 to 129,000 players. As a result, the Lawn and Tennis Association announced a new paddle strategy, where a key aspect will be to continue increasing the facilities across the UK. Here at the House of Sport, it was recently announced they will soon be starting construction of 3 new indoor courts to add to the existing 3. And with footballing giants like Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo most notably expressing their love for it, it's yet to be seen just how big it's going to be.
I'm delighted to be joined live in the studio by Sean Misra, who works as a freelance women's football writer. Sean, it's fantastic to have you here. I'd like to start by discussing Tuesday night, an absolutely huge game in Welsh women's history. What's your take on it?
Yeah, I'm still giddy thinking about it now, thinking about what happened, you know. It's a team who's had so many near misses, about 2018, 2020, 2022, but to see this group finally get it done and go over the line is just amazing.
Yeah, not many of us were fortunate enough to be there in Dublin on Tuesday night and experience it. What was the atmosphere like, being at the game in the ground?
Yeah, it was amazing. You know, we had 25,000 Irish fans in there, and they made noise, they made light show. You had Katie McCabe cheering them on. But no, Welsh fans, 400 of them travelled over, made all the noise. You could hear them even when we were sitting up right at the top. You could hear them all the way. The anthem was brilliant. And yeah, more importantly, you could hear the cheers when we scored.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And obviously, Hannah Kane scored a pivotal goal in Welsh women's football history, to send us basically to our first women's tournament. She just recently returned from 2 ACL injuries, and that's one of the most difficult injuries to return from in football. But how has it been just, to see her process and recovery?
It's been incredible. I've been fortunate to speak to Hannah a number of times, and she had a really bad foot injury and then 2 ACL. So at the age of 24, to have 3 serious injuries, that's enough to test anyone's mental fortitude. But to see her come back time and time again, to score that penalty is simply remarkable. And I'm hoping now this could be the catalyst for her to push on and potentially be our leading striker going into the European Championships.
Yeah, well, just a quick one. What do you believe is next for Welsh football?
We need to tackle the grassroots. If we can start right at the base level, work our way up all the way to the senior team, make sure everything is covered, funded, then everything will be fine. Hopefully a successful European champion.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us. Next up on the programme, we speak to a first aider who monitors student welfare at the sports park.
The University of South Wales' Sport Park plays host to a number of Bucks fixtures every week. From football to netball, rugby and hockey to name a few, students will congregate at the venue in Treforest to represent the university across the various different sports every Wednesday. But there are a number of people who work in the background who are integral to ensuring that this runs smoothly.
My name is Wendy Kopinski. I'm part of a medical team from Tactical Medical Rescue, and we cover all the medical cover on the sports park in Treforest.
Can I ask how long you've been doing this for?
I've been doing this, I think this is our 3rd year now. So, yeah, 3rd year. So it's quite good, yeah.
Okay.
I've been doing this for about 4 years now, and I'm part of another, probably about 6 people. A lot of them higher than me, rec forward, technicians, paramedics, all part of the same team. Every week is different. We're here on a Monday for the training, and then on a Monday evening from about 5 to about 8:30 for all parts, whether it be hockey, lacrosse, football, rugby, netball. And then on a Wednesday, depending on what football matches are here, or matches, we've got hockey, football, we'll probably arrive around 11, half 11 for a 12 o'clock start. And we can be here anything up to about 6 o'clock, depending on how many matches there are. Well, the protocol basically is generally with a football match, we need to be called on by the ref. Otherwise, the game must stop. Generally, we'll assess the situation, assess the injury. If we can treat it here, obviously, fair enough. Hopefully, we will be able to treat it here. Whether it be after cramps, stuff like that. Then make the most. The worst one we've had is a broken humerus. That was pretty grim. But we had to get an ambulance for that one. So last week or the week before, I think we had one of the guys out on the rugby hurt his shoulder. So that was a hospital job. We can't transport, but we can get someone within this complex to actually take them to hospital. And that was pretty horrendous.
Yeah.
The safety of the students participating across Bucks fixtures is paramount, and roles such as Wendy's are absolutely vital in ensuring sport is played with a watchful eye to be called upon when needed.
Next, we see who will come out on top in the Sports Journalism Pool Challenge. James Dow reports.
A showdown for the ages saw third-year USW sports journalism students, Yestin Thomas and Leah Bauer, go head-to-head in a classic game of pool to see who would become champion, while also having the chance to bring home the bragging rights for the rest of the academic year. This was also a great opportunity to learn more about the final year students, who gave us a deeper insight on what their most memorable sporting moment was during their childhood years, which are now long behind them.
I think the first time I remember Liverpool winning a trophy was it was actually against Cardiff. It was the Carling Cup in 2012, and it went to penalties. So I think that's the first I remember. We had cupcakes. So I think that was one of my favourite ones.
Wales versus France in 2012 because Wales won the Grand Slam that year, and I remember watching the game with a family friend, and remember learned how to do roly-polies afterwards, which is a bit of a weird one.
There was little to split the two players apart, with both potting consistently throughout the match, which then meant we found ourselves at a sudden death scenario, where the winner would be decided by whoever could pot the black ball first. Both players had their chances to win the game, but a calm and composed final shot from Yestin saw him pot the final black ball and become 2024 USW Sports Journalism Pool Champion. We caught up with the winner to get his reaction on the match.
So yes, in a tight match, how does it feel to come out on top?
Yeah, good. There's a little bit scrappy throughout. I have to be honest, this is the first time I've touched a pool cue for quite a long time, and but no, always delighted to get
On the next episode of A Game of Two Halves, we'll be highlight at some of the country's more hidden athletes, including a champion bodybuilder, a Commonwealth air rifler, and a world champion cyclist. Thanks very much for watching this episode. I'd like to thank Sean for joining me live in the studio, and I'd like to thank the fantastic production team who've helped us put this episode together. We'll see you next time on A Game of Two Halves.